Hello everyone, welcome back to another edition of Monday Musings. I know it's not a Monday, it was a Tuesday when I sent out the tweet this week. It's because of the new year, we had a game on the Monday, so I thought I'd get you a little bit of content out. I know it's been away for a couple of weeks, we're trying to get this more consistent now. Hopefully the Monday games will stop, so we'll have a lot more time to muse over the questions that I pose on Twitter. So let's get straight into them. Question 1, our midfield looking much more energetic last night. Should Noble be sacrificed in regards to a starting 11 place? Now, this is something I've myself been quite vocal about in the last few weeks. Now, I hate saying this about Mark Noble because although I don't think he's the best or greatest player, he does have a lot of desire for West Ham and he does love West Ham. But unfortunately, and I've said this since last year, even when he was having a good season, if you want to progress and you want to get better, you have to replace players like Noble. Like, he's not an England international. He's not of premium quality. I know he's got a lot of desire for the club, but you've got to replace players like him with someone of the same ilk but with better qualities. And as I said, I hate saying this about Mark Noble because he's been Mr. West Ham. He is Mr. West Ham. He's been Mr. West Ham for the past 10 years or so. He does need replacing. It was so obvious against Man United, even with just the 10 men. Czech, I know Czech goes away to the African Cup of Nations, and I know that Noble will probably be playing in his place while he's gone. But once Czech comes back, once we've got a full midfield, there's just much more energy. There's much more drive in the midfield with that. All due respect to Nobes, but Obiang and Czech have got the ability to run into the gaps that I was talking about in the Leicester post-match pint, and really start to bring out play, make things happen. And Noble just hasn't got that anymore, and that's not his fault. And as I said before, I hate saying this about one of our own, but there does come a time, every Hammer's like homegrown talent. There comes a time when you have to start to think beyond them, and I think it's coming to Nobe's time. Unless he can pick up some extra pace, which he's never had in his career really, unless he can pick up some extra energy from somewhere, it's just coming to his time, I'm afraid. And let's take some of your quotes on Twitter. At RedHammer8, that's Gio from the Hammers Chat, go and check their stuff out. Says, game by game with tactics and 11 to suit is required for some, but not all. No longer a first name on a team sheet, but has a role. I do agree with that as well. I'm not saying sell him. I'm not saying get rid of him. I'm just saying, as I know he's our captain, but as a certified starter, I think it's about time that Nobe started to have an impact off the bench. At Goaty Joe said it for a long time. Noble is a bench player. Would love to see Pablo Hernandez coming from Leeds, another playmaker. I don't know a lot about Pablo Hernandez, but I'll take your word from it, mate. At Lionel Lanzini says, I think he shouldn't because he will always fight till the end and he'll play much better if there was movement in front of him. I do agree with that as well. If you want someone to dig their heels in, if you want someone to die for the cause, Mark Noble is the man. But at the moment, the way the season's going, because of the lack of movement, we need someone to pick the ball up and run with it, and Nobes is not that man. At Tom Down 3 says, love Nobes, Mr. West Ham, but anyone says he's not losing his legs is wrong. We need to play him on a game by game basis. Agree with that. At Lukey Malden says, not for me. Noble needs to adapt to a bigger pitch at a new home. He is West Ham through and through and will always fight. I do agree with that, Luke. I do agree with that. At Finley Jackson says, yes, I feel we should drop in Nobes last night, gave the midfield so much more pace. Checky and Obiang work very well together. I've been saying Czech and Obiang all season. I must put that out there. At PBM 1968 says, yes, yesterday proved Coyote and Obiang best centre midfield partnership. We'd like to see Fernandez/Obiang on Friday for more energy. I'll take a couple more. The three Hammers have commented, says, I think so. The midfield with more energy. Forward thinkers plus Lanzini don't mind tackling. He doesn't. I was quite surprised with that. He doesn't mind getting stuck in. And I'll take one more. At Tiggy Tommy says, Noble slows our play down. We break much quicker without him. love the bloke, but he should be dropped. And I tend to agree. A lot of people agreeing with me there. Number 2, question 2. As well as a striker and a right back, do we also need to strengthen in regard to losing players for the African Cup of Nations, or do we ride it out? Now, as you know, Chet Kyoto, who earlier on in the season, when he was playing in midfield with Noble, I would have said he's no big miss really. He wasn't having a great season, but since he moved into that centre-back role, then he's moved back into midfield. He's really started to hit a little bit of form again, Chet Kyoto. Obviously, Andre Ayew goes as well. Another big player that we could do without missing for the next few weeks. But, you know, it is what it is. But do you sign players just because it's African Cup of Nations? Now, in my mind, when it comes to the African Cup of Nations, the squad should be adapted in the summer, because we all know it's coming up. We all sort of know what sort of players are going to go. They're going to go, or they're going to be injured, like in case of Sacco. So you should be looking at that. Was Nordveit brought in for that? Was the amount of signings that come in, like Fernandez and people like that, come in, like were they signed to cover that as well as the European campaign, of course? Maybe, but obviously we've lost Toure, who's no great miss. We find out this afternoon whether we're going to lose Faguli for 3 games, which after he wasn't picked for Algeria in the Africa Cup of Nations, I thought was a bit of a touch. But obviously, sending off, a wrongful one in my mind, brings that into doubt. So is he going to be available? I'm not sure, but you know, we have to strengthen. I'd like to see, you know, instead of just signing people that, you know, fit on the brinks of. I know that a right back and a striker are our main priorities, and they should be our main priorities, and we should. If there's only a certain amount of money available, we should be concentrating on them first and foremost. Forget everything else. But like, I'd like to see a big player come in to sort of compete in that midfield. Now, we just spoke about Noble, right? So you've got Obiang and Chet Kyoto in the midfield. Why not go for someone like Morgan Schneiderlin? And Morgan Schneiderlin, although he's had a bit of a rough time at Man United, a lot of players go there and have a bit of a rough time. But he's a very, very good player, Morgan Schneiderlin, and he would add something to our team. And that's what we need to be doing with signings now. Instead of just signing players to, you know, who are okay enough to bring in when, you know, the big players are gone, we should be looking to upgrade each player. And that goes for everybody, you know, even down to Winston Reid. You know, if we can get a better centre-half, if you want to progress, there can be no time for sort of nostalgia. There's no time to sort of like get all, you know, heartfelt when, you know, you talk about players moving on. Yeah, we do love players, but if we want to improve as a club, we should start signing people to compete in the team rather than just to fill the squad. Now let's take some of your. I didn't really answer the question really. Should we sign some players? Yes, we should. We should sign 1 or 2 more, as well as a striker and a right back. Let's take some of your comments on this. There's a big long strand here between Tom and someone else. But WHU at Mr. 2013 says, why not? Samuelson isn't ready for the Premier League. Bring back Cullen in January as cover for Coyote. Right back and striker is the priority. I agree with that. Right back and striker should be the priority. But we have got youngsters. And one thing, with Chet going, I thought we might recall Cullen. But that isn't the case. I've just seen on the internet now that Cullen's out for the rest of the season. He's out on loan to Bradford. I think that's a bit of a mistake. I think there's something where a youngster could have been, you know, put in for a couple of games over the next month or so. At Noble Art says, I would like to see us get an attacking left-sided player. At PBM 1968, ride it out and give the youth a try. Brown, Martinez, Oxford all deserve a chance. Plus Burke return should be enough. At Adrian SMDC says, I don't think we need to, but possibly a centre midfielder like Ariata, but not sure if he'd leave Bournemouth. At GH90WHU, need Coyote a replacement. Would like to see Martinez give it a go, and Samuelson also. He's been sent out on loan though. That's annoying. And one more, at Zach Johnson says, either Lanzini needs to return to form, or we need an attacking playmaker in return to return the threat we had last season. I'm going to take one more actually. And Harry Hamilton, 1997 says, tricky one this. It's only really Coyote and I who I think we're losing, but we still have Pedro and Lanzini that can play. While they're gone, need to start bringing you through and getting them in and around the first team for when their time comes. So a lot of people want the youth. You know, it's about time that the youth started to be bred into the West Ham way, I think. West Ham team. And last but not least, question 3, and there is a bonus question as well that I put out. 3, this goes back to the Monday's game. With obvious error by referees in last night's game, is it time that refs should have explained their actions to fans? Now, we all see the shocker that Mike Dean had. Now, this is not the first shocker that Mike Dean's had. This is, 2 or 3, major incidents that I can remember, and I'm sure there's more in other games. Fans from other teams will be more well placed in to answer that question. But in my mind, and this is just my mind, he's a terrible referee. And when you look at the Faguli challenge, now, people, ever since we put up this stuff about the Faguli challenge, people have turned around and said, yeah, but what about Adrian? What about this? I'm not saying that none of them were a red card, but I'm just talking about the incident in question, and that was the Faguli red card. Should the Faguli red card have been a red card? Just because Adrian done something similar and never got sent off a couple of weeks ago. Now, I said it should have been a sending off. Yeah? Should have been a sending off. But nobody appealed it. Nobody put it in a referee's report. So he wasn't red carded. It's a matter of opinion, some of these things. And the referee at that time didn't think it was a red card. Now, when you look at the Faguli challenge, I can't see what he's done wrong there. I really can't. He's gone in for a ball. Some people are saying 2 feet off the ground, but Jesus Christ, if you're going into a tackle, he's not. To my mind, he wasn't out of control. He had only eyes on the ball. Phil Jones, I feel, come in harder and more dangerous than Faguli. So, at first glance, yeah, I do understand. We were sitting up in the stands. I didn't think it was a red card. I said that was a good 50-50 challenge. Ryan said he's off, but I think he was saying that because of the reaction of the referee. But when you look back at the replay, it's an awful decision. It's an awful decision. And not only that, later on in the game, 1-0 down, we've still got a chance to get in it, of course, at 1-0 down. We created a few chances ourselves. The Antonio chance, the Lanzini chance. So it wasn't like we was on the back foot all the time. We was on the back foot a lot of the time. But then you give an offside decision that is totally wrong, and when it comes to them sort of things, I think referees should be held accountable. I think referees should have to go up against a panel. I don't know what they do. It's a very close shot refereeing, but they should have to explain to people. They make these decisions and they just get away with it scot-free. I do understand that in certain instances, the FA have to back referees, otherwise there's no point in having them, because if you overrule every decision a referee makes. But when it comes to things that are blatantly wrong like that, and things that are controversial, I mean, Mike Dean must have gone in at half-time and watched that, and he must have thought, I've made a real blunder then. But does he? Because he likes to make it about him, Mike Dean. And, I think, as paying fans, he ruined the game on Monday. We pay our money to go and watch a good game. After 15 minutes, it was, teeing up to be a real good game. It looked like it was going to be a real tasty game, a real competitive game. If we'd lost to Man United, I'd have no complaints with 11 against 11. But when you see the injustice that happens in them situations, why shouldn't the referee have to come out? Managers have to do it. When a manager gets beat 7-8-0, TV contractual rights say they have to come out and talk to Sky Sports, when probably all they want to do is bury their head in the sand. Some sort of explanation from the refs will go a long way in easing the fans, because in my mind, the referee there has robbed us of a good game of football. But for something, and there's always this sayings that says, if you're not sure, you can't give it. Now, how can you see something that didn't happen? This is the thing. I don't understand it. the offside goal as well. Him and the linesman should have both come out and, at least apologised and at least turned around and said, I got that one totally wrong. They've got the power to change the referee's report, but I bet he put a referee's report in on Monday because of West Ham having to, appeal it. He could come out and say, yeah, I got that one totally wrong, put in a referee's report, should have been a red card, no ban is necessary. That's the sort of thing they should be doing, but they won't be doing. Let's take some of yours because I waffle on all day otherwise, because that's that's a subject I can talk all day on. At Lionel Lanzini says, yes, fuck everything that happened in the past when they're the goal scorer. Oh, sorry, that's a different question. At Lionel Lanzini says 100% they should have to make a very bad controversial decision that causes the game to be ruined and teams to lose. At Izara Phil says, last year we have a record number of bad decisions against us. It cost us Champions League football in the end. At Tom Down says, anything bad about referee performance, they are punished. Bilic had a little dig quite rightly yesterday. He will get a fine. You just watch. PBM 1968 says, yes, refs should explain even via an intermediary, but it can't see it ever happening. Dean should not ref us again this season. At Adrian MDC says, not only that, I believe they should be retrained. The quality of refereeing has slipped in the past couple of decades, in my opinion. Now, Billy, the only thing I would say about that, and the only problem I have with that, is that I feel that it has slipped, but there's so many rules and so many stipulations. There should be rules there that are a matter of fact rather than a matter of opinion. Is a player going in aggressively? Well, that's an opinion, isn't it? Like that challenge on Monday, Mike Dean obviously thought it was aggressive. Another referee might have thought, no, good 50-50 challenge. Like the one at Leicester, I thought the one at Leicester was pretty good referee, in my opinion. But there's too many rules, and there's too many rules that are based on the referee's opinion. Like offsides. Is he interfering in play? Isn't he interfering in play? If you're standing offside, you should be offside. We had this a few years ago, and the level of consistency is the thing as well that lets them down badly, because we see an Alex Song goal a few years ago given offside because a player was standing offside that wasn't interfering with play, and then a couple of weeks ago I see one very similar that was given. So be consistent. If you're going to punish people, punish everyone for the same thing. As I said, Faguli went in like that. It was one-footed challenge. He wasn't showing his studs. Yeah, both feet come off the floor, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's aggressive or is out of control. I could dive in, well, not so much anymore, but I used to be able to dive in with both feet off the floor and have a controlled tackle. And then you see players like Marcus Rojo, 2 weeks on a spin going with 2 feet. And that is aggressive. And he was given a yellow card both times. It's a disgrace. At Claret and Blue Blood says, absolutely, anybody who fucks up the work has to explain and apologise for their poor decisions. Why not referees? At Will Byfer says, yes, 100%, refs should be mic'd up and have to do interviews after games to protect it. That's a good thing. That's a good that's a very good point. Sorry, I'm not sure if you can see me there. In the same game, we see the incident where he threatened Pedro Obiang, Mike Dean, saying that if he looks at him again, that he will be punished. Now, come on, that's schoolboy stuff, if anything. And them sort of things should be punishable for referees. Them sort of things should mean that the referee, gets a punishment, because that's bullying tactic. And I tweeted that the other day. We remember all this respect the referee campaign. Well, it should go both ways, in my opinion. Anyway, it should go both ways. I'm going to take one more on this, then I'll go to the bonus question. At Vaz18Flick77 says their reports should be made public if we want to explain themselves. If they don't want to explain themselves, at least the video reports. At least with the reports, we'd know what they are thinking. And another good point there. And the last and bonus question which I tweeted out the other day, and it got quite a good response. New Year transfer season is upon us. Jermaine Defoe, yes or no? And I'll just go through them a little bit, and I'm yes, by the way. At Freehammer says yes, 100%. Yes for me, Tom Down. PBM Marshall, yes to Defoe. Can't see Sunderland allowing as Defoe's only way up to stand up. Batshuayi is a better option. Luke Malden, no. Defoe will always be a Spurs legend. We're not sloppy seconds. He'll always score goals, but we have had dignity. Fair point, I suppose. At Mark Pefferter, yes to both. I think he was talking about the last question and this question. Robert Smith, 100%. At Darobstar08, 100%. Yes, no brainer. Two sides to every story. Couple more. Draggy 1950, yes, 100%. A prolific goal scorer will entice other top strikers to move to West Ham once they see there are goals to be scored. And one more. Greg, GH90WHU, there will be a divide on him, but he's old enough to take it on. Score 15, he'll be a hero. He's clinical, something we lack. So, not overwhelming. Yes, there are a couple of people who said no, but, you know, all in all, it's a yes for me from Jermaine Defoe. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us on this edition of Monday Musings. Don't forget to join Scott for his preview of the Man United game. There'll be another on the social going up this week. Dan's FIFA preview, post-match pint. Well, it's going to be post-match reaction on Friday, actually, because it's very difficult to film now in the evening times. Post-match reaction, all the fan cams and all that after Friday night. And one thing left to say, lads, come on you irons.